Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Gratitude and Mindfulness in the Workplace workshop. My name is Jennifer Rhodes. I'm one of the career advisors here on the CPD team. And just a couple of items before we get started into the content. I believe everybody's automatically placed on mute, but just, double checking to make sure, just so we minimize any background noise. Also, this session is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be sent within about 2 business days, so that you will be able to go back and review some of this content. So before we get started, I do like to know my audience, and I'm also giving a shout out to Shantae Mack. She is my colleague that is joining us today. She's a career advisor on our team, and she's going to help moderate some of the chat and share some resources with you as well in the chat as needed. So getting to know my audience a little bit more, would just like you to type in the chat what discipline you're from, whether it's IT, education, healthcare, business, and what specifically about this topic interests you. Okay, great. So we have IT, business, right? Education, data analytics, education, accounting. Oh, great. Shannon says teaching my coworkers by my example. Perfect. Education, accounting, supply chain, business. Looks like we have a lot of different areas represented, so that's outstanding. Making a career pivot from fast food to IT, I'd like some techniques for keeping my head level during shifts. Outstanding. Trying to learn how to build the best culture possible when I get a new job. I love that because it's kind of like the setting the example comment. And you definitely can shift, help to shift a work culture depending on what you implement. Working on early childhood learning, outstanding. Thank you all for sharing. I'm very curious because this is one we don't offer all too often. So I always get curious about what draws people into this particular workshop. So a little bit more about my background too. I hold a master's in counseling. So I've been fortunate enough in my current role to infuse some SEL or social emotional learning content into some of our programming. And as a result, I have put together this particular workshop that does have a slant of mindfulness and gratitude and how that can really empower us as professionals. I've been with WGU. September 3rd will be my 4-year anniversary. Its time has really flown by. I spend most of the year in Tempe, Arizona. However, I've been fortunate the last couple summers to escape to where I'm originally from, Northwest Pennsylvania, where it is much cooler. Before joining WGU, I worked for Arizona State for about 10 years in many different career development capacities, working with everyone from first-time freshmen to career changers, seasoned professionals, PhD postdocs, online students. I've been very grateful to get a wide range of career development experience there. My passion really is career development, helping individuals to tell their career narratives, translate their skills into their interest areas and helping them to find a path that works for them. What I really love about WGU students is every day is different. I talk to students from all over the country, all walks of life, all kinds of experiences. Really helps to keep me engaged and interested in the field. So thank you. Yeah, and Pranitha, thank you for the workiversary. Yes, thank you, Shantae. Appreciate it. So if you're just joining us, welcome. Again, we are recording this session, so you will be sent a recording within about 2 business days, so you can go back. This is a little bit of a different workshop than we traditionally offer. I would recommend having a paper and pen handy as ideas come up for you. Also, what I like to do for my workshops is offer what we call a 30-day challenge. What I mean by that is I have all the participants look out about 30 days and think about 3 items that they're willing to commit to after the workshop. As we probably all know, we attend different kinds of workshops and we may get really engaged with the material, but then we get really busy in our lives and we don't really put that information to work. So doing the 30-day challenge basically requires you to commit to putting this content to work. So for some, that really helps. It helps to focus them and it helps to keep that material active. If you have any questions or comments along the way, myself and Shantae will be monitoring those as they come in. So definitely welcome those questions and comments along the way. So this is a really great quote that I just wanted to share with all of you about gratitude. As you can see here, gratitude can transform common days into Thanksgivings, turn routine jobs into joy, and change ordinary opportunities into blessings. Another way to look at this is gratitude makes what we have enough, right? If we take a pause and we take a step back and think about all those things in our lives that we are really grateful for, this can shift our perspective and really help us to see how fortunate we are. So we'll talk a little bit more about this throughout the workshop, but that is just a quote that I'd like to open with here. So we are going to do an exercise here in the beginning to get us prepared for more of the material. We're going to talk specifically about gratitude and mindfulness, different kinds of techniques. We're going to talk a little bit about the research behind these kinds of areas of gratitude and mindfulness and how powerful those can be. Then we will talk about ways to incorporate gratitude and mindfulness into our work settings. And honestly, a lot of this can be translated into our everyday lives as well. Then we get into that 30-day challenge, and then we have some time for Q&A as well. So I'd like us all to take a couple of minutes and participate in this gratitude exercise. So in order to do this, think of a problem you are experiencing at work and rank the stress level you feel on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. Then what you will do is write down 3 things you are grateful for or appreciate, and then you will be able to see some of the impact of this gratitude exercise. But first, I want to give you a minute just to think of a problem or issue that you are experiencing in your work setting. This could also be for folks, honestly, that are unemployed and are searching right now. And then rate your stress level of that incident from a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. So I'll give you a minute to think of something, then we'll go to the next part of this. Okay, so it looks like Pranitha shared either a 4 or 5, mostly a lot of children coming in with disabilities or difficulties, mostly Somalian population in Ohio. So yes, I can see how that can be stressful. How many of you had a rating when you wrote down this incident that you're thinking of at least a 4 or a 5? If you want to type in the chat what level you place that stressor at from 1 to 5. Okay, so I see a 4, I see a 5, a 4. Looks like you all are coming up with some pretty stressful situations as you pause here. So yeah, for this you want to, put again a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the least stressful, 5 being the most stressful, something that is a difficult situation at work. An immediate 5 for rude fast food customers. Lydia, I remember working in fast food and customer service. I understand. Oh, and Chris says 5. Okay. Yes. So the next part of this exercise is to write down 3 things you are grateful for or appreciate. So this could be anything that makes you happy. For example, I'm a huge coffee fan. If I can have a cup of coffee, that a lot of times will change my mood, sometimes pretty quickly. Or, working remotely is something I'm really grateful for. My niece is something else I'm grateful for. So write down 3 things you are grateful for or appreciate. As you write these things down, really take them in. Think about what is it that you appreciate about these things. Yes, Jesse shares being able to get along with my boss, having a job still, and room for advancement. Excellent. And by the way, these things you're grateful for can either be directly work affiliated or outside of that. It can just be things that make you happy. Right? Yeah, being alive, right? That's a really good one. Learning opportunities, outstanding. Being able to put my knowledge to use. Okay, now that you've identified those 3 areas or 3 things you appreciate or value, what is your stress level related to that incident you wrote? Now that you reflect on those things you're grateful for, did it change at all? Okay, I see a 2, 2.5. Isn't this an interesting exercise? For a lot of people, it does seem that the stress level goes down. So that just shows you this brief little exercise, the power of gratitude. Just taking a moment to pause and really think about the things in our lives that we enjoy, that we're grateful for, that we appreciate, can really help to relieve stress as you can experience firsthand here. So hopefully that was a fun little exercise for you to get prepared here. So when we're looking at an official definition of gratitude, here we see gratitude is the expression of appreciation for what one has. Recognition of value independent of monetary worth, spontaneously generated from within. It is an affirmation of goodness and warmth. So now more than ever, it's challenging to be in the present moment and feel grateful for all that we have. A lot of times with so many, competing challenges, and especially a lot of you that are current students and that are working on top of that, caring for family members, it can really be a balancing act. But practicing gratitude helps us to widen our perspective and honestly look at things more broadly, which increases our positivity and well-being and improves on our confidence and relationships with others. At times like these, when there's many things happening at once and many things are uncertain, when things are so uncertain, a gratitude practice can be a stabilizer. How many of you have tried a formalized gratitude exercise in the past, aside from the one you just did today? Just curious about who we have joining us today and if they've tried these before. Hey, anybody try? I used to write down what I was grateful for every morning. Excellent. gratitude journal for a few days, but it felt cheesy and weird after a while, so I stopped. Okay, tried it only a few times. Great to see that some of you have worked on this. And it's amazing. Sometimes it does take some momentum and it takes the pattern of doing this repeatedly to really see impact over time. And it might seem a little odd at first, but again, if you try different ways of expressing what you're grateful for. One of my favorite tools that I started doing about a year ago is I keep a gratitude jar. And every week I write down something. I made it a little flexible. I write down something that either I am grateful for or something funny that happened. So I'm really big on humor. And then I do that every week. I write down one thing and I put it in a jar. Then on New Year's Eve, I open those up and I read about all of these funny things or all of these things I'm grateful for throughout the year. And I've only been doing it for about 2 years, but I absolutely love it. So maybe even trying something like that could be something fun in a way to still experience how powerful this experience can be for you. So the best way to capture moments is to pay attention. This is how we cultivate mindfulness. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the work of Jon Kabat-Zinn, but he wrote a book several years ago called Wherever You Go, There You Are. And as a matter of fact, I'm reading that book right now. And what it is a series of reflections and small meditations that you can do um, on things like patience, um, experiencing difficult times. He takes you through different topics, and he helps you to really hone in on how to be in the present moment. I'm about a third of the way through, and it's a very easy read, and you can pause and you can really take your time. If you're wanting to really know more about mindfulness, Jon Kabat-Zinn is one of the fathers of that. He started writing about that years ago. And it really is all in ways to bring yourself into the present moment. So I ask all of you, what do you think is the biggest challenge in staying within the present moment? You have any response to that, feel free to type in the chat here. What keeps you from being in the present? Okay, so having ADHD can be challenging. Concern about world events, right? It's very hard to stay focused when we're concerned about other really big events going on around us, for sure. Anybody else? Okay, lots of changes. Autism, yes. And stress and Kumon, sure. Shantae, that's a great answer. Not extending grace to yourself, right? I do another workshop on imposter syndrome. And with that, a lot of times it's the messages that we tell ourselves in our heads, right? It can be with imposter syndrome, it's that challenge of never feeling good enough. And a lot of it involves critical self-talk. So this can also be difficult to keep ourselves in the present moment. If we are constantly judging ourselves, how can we be fully present with another person, another moment, etc.? So understanding what some of your challenges are with being mindful can be really powerful and important too as you're working toward mindfulness. I don't know how many of you have ever, tried a version of meditation. There are many different kinds out there. But you may be a person that experienced that, this makes me deeply uncomfortable. When I try to meditate, I have more racing thoughts, or I just cannot focus on the topic of meditation. There's this misconception that meditation is all about getting to a peaceful place and staying there. A lot of times it is letting uncomfortable emotions surface and letting them go, right? It's not all about getting to a place of peacefulness. It's about letting these emotions come and go as they do. So this can be something else to keep in mind about meditation and trying to get yourself more focused in mindfulness. So yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different challenges, neurodiversity, right? Many different challenges with this. So I think it's also important to know what works for you. If you are neurodiverse, learning about yourself, knowing what works most for you can be helpful, and understanding what some of your challenges are as well. Another technique that I teach my students, I also teach community college students online, is whenever you find yourself drifting and your attention drifting, to put a mark. If you have a paper and pen, put a little mark at the top of the paper. It's not so much to make you self-conscious of how many times your mind wanders, but it's more drawing your attention to, okay, how do I get back to the present? How do I get back to the present, right? It's bringing the attention to the here and now even more. So that's just a small little trick there. But having an understanding, again, of what takes you away, it can be important. And also, other factors about yourself. If you are neurodiverse, there can be certain techniques that might work better for you than for other folks. So when we're looking at this connection to mindfulness, some ways to do this, more ways to be mindful in general, is first of all, set aside some time if you want to work on becoming more mindful. For folks that want to practice meditation, and that's only one form of mindfulness, you might say, I'm going to start with 2 minutes. I'm going to start 2 minutes 3 times a week of tuning inward. And there are so many meditations that you can find online through YouTube, different channels. Headspace is another one. There's a lot of really great apps that you can use, but it can start with, first of all, setting aside and dedicating that time. Then turning inward, taking your deep breaths, observing and feeling the present moment as it is. So this goes back to, again, the misconception among a lot of people that meditation has to do with getting to a peaceful state and staying there. It really is getting comfortable with what comes up, no matter what that is. Letting your judgments pass by. So this can involve centering yourself. And what's the one thing that we can always tune into, no matter where we are? No matter what time it is? Does anybody know what's the one thing that we can always tune into within ourselves? Yes, Jesse basically has it. It's your breath. Right. So one of our other colleagues told us a story about a student who recently lost someone that was very significant to them. And this person needed to go to a networking event. And the loss happened so recently that this student was afraid they were going to lose control of their emotions and just start crying. And this colleague talked about, bringing attention, tuning into your breath. That's the one thing you can access anytime, anywhere. And this student actually did that. They went to the networking event, they were able to tune into their breathing, and they said it helped them immensely. So it is something that you can definitely tune into for that. So that is something else to keep in mind there. And Shantae, thank you for sharing the link there for Headspace. That's outstanding. So letting your judgments pass you by, returning to the present moment, and then rekindle yourself and your wandering mind. So these are the steps that are related to a lot of times mindful practice. Again, there are many variations on this, and we're going to talk about some other activities that you can do, also more specifically aimed toward the workplace and your work situation. Before we get to that though, mindfulness meditation course participants, here's a little bit of research for you. Results showed increased well-being and creativity among their employees that took part into the mindfulness meditation. Along with that, mindfulness meditation enhances behavioral health, resilience, and promotes healthier brain functioning overall. So again, there are many benefits to these practices. So here we are looking at practicing gratitude in the workplace. So a study by the American Psychological Association, a 2016 Work and Well-Being Survey suggests workers who say their employer makes them feel valued are more likely to be satisfied with their jobs and motivated to do their best. Probably no surprise to anyone. Also, those who feel valued are more likely to say they regularly participate in their employer's wellness programs and less likely to report chronic work stress or intend to leave the organization in the next year. So this is about being shown appreciation by leadership and the value of that. There is also a clear connection between showing appreciation to your people and employee motivation and engagement. So if any of you are supervisors or you plan to be, this is some research backing this up. In a recent study by the American Psychological Association, researchers found that 93% of employees who reported feeling valued said that they are motivated to do their best at work, and 88% reported feeling engaged. Again, probably not a surprise. That connection of, feeling appreciated makes people want to do more and be more engaged with their work. Studies also show that employees who receive more gratitude perform kind acts that aren't part of their job description, such as filling in for colleagues and helping new recruits. Also, according to research by the London School of Economics, performance-related pay often does not encourage people to work harder. Gratitude can actually be a better motivator than money. It's very interesting. Those who regularly express gratitude lead a more positive life and are typically more healthy physically and mentally. Gratitude also helps to manage stress, anger, and depression. Cultivating gratitude has been shown to reduce stress hormones like cortisol by as much as 23%. A professor at UCLA states that gratitude is a fertilizer for the mind, spreading connections and improving its function in nearly every realm. Gratitude also affects the body's biochemistry. It can lower blood pressure, improve immune function, and have a positive impact on sleep even. People practicing gratitude also notice changes in their behavior, taking more exercise and making healthier food choices. So it's like one healthy act, leads to another. Positive thinking assists employees with broadening their perspectives and helps to improve behaviors. Gratitude can also make one feel more loved and connected. One of the coolest aspects of gratitude is that there is what has been called a spillover effect, which means individuals become more trusting with each other and more likely to help each other out, according to a Forbes article. Mindfulness is one great element of workplace wellness. Mindfulness and meditation help employees focus on the present moment and therefore perform better on the job. So that is some of the research behind this. And if we look at the benefits of practicing gratitude in the workplace, as we said, greater workplace satisfaction and higher employee motivation. Promoting positive culture in the workplace, which is, again, going to help people to be more present and want to be more engaged. We talked about the value of mental and physical health all the way around there. Improve positive thinking at work. So when you are shown appreciation by others, or you are maybe the person to show appreciation, a lot of times that can help have a ripple effect and change the way individuals think about each other and themselves in the workplace. It can also help to remove social challenges, and expressing gratitude itself is a sign of mindfulness when we're tying this all together. So some ideas for showing gratitude in the workplace. Yeah, so just pausing for a second here. It looks like there are a couple of comments in here. So Lydia, I've been told by several ADHD friends that I have it, but I've never been diagnosed. I also have PTSD and a series of unfortunate events, lots of time, blindness, and I'm also caring for an elderly grandparent. Goodness, yeah, you are balancing a lot. Mindfulness is something I know I need, but it's also so draining that I don't take the time. Absolutely, and that's maybe where you can start slow. You can start with a small activity, and a lot of times if you can start to see the value, that can give you some momentum to want to keep it up. And I use the kind of analogy of weight loss because that's something that I've been on a weight loss plan for the last couple years. And getting started on something like that seems like a huge mountain to climb. Um, Over the span of 2 years, I lost about 40 pounds. And it's something that you have to really, for me, is still an ongoing daily battle. And I remember starting on that and saying, you mean I have to start cooking all my meals and doing meal prep, which I used to be completely against. But when, I will tell you, after about 2 months or so of starting to cook my own meals, getting a workout routine going, I really started to see the value of, my gosh, I feel so much better. I actually have energy. And that really helped to keep the momentum going. But the first couple months were really, really difficult, right? So it's starting slow. And even that's why I like the 30-day challenge that we're going to talk about. That can, maybe give you a little jump start to try this out and see how it works for you. And yeah, like Lydia said, a good job today goes a very long way. I've heard several people say that they are not comfortable with being publicly recognized for doing a good job. And there could be many reasons for this. You could, you could be a person that feels like that's boastful. You could just, be more of a reserved person and don't really like all that attention. Or it could be you also are challenged with imposter syndrome and you say, well, if I do a good job once, I'm going to have to do it every time, right? So there could be many reasons for that. But there's also a lot of evidence that shows that people need to hear that they're doing a good job from time to time in the way that works for them. Maybe it's an individual email from their supervisor, or maybe it's positive feedback from clients that you work with, or one of your instructors. All of these could be really good. So, yeah, in terms of showing gratitude in the workplace, does anybody have any brief tips that they want to share that they've either experienced or seen that they want to type in? Yes, Sonia says asking coworkers how they would like to be communicated with. That is huge, by the way, because like I just said, some people do not prefer the public recognition, but they might love to, get an individual email, or there may be just another way that they would like to have that appreciation, right? Yoga, that's excellent. Yes, if you can implement either like a yoga or a meditation practice in your workplace, or even if you work remotely, if you could set up a group and maybe just have someone lead a yoga exercise or a meditation exercise, this could be incredibly powerful because you know what? We get caught in our routines so much that we forget what it's like to take a pause sometimes until we do it. And like a lot of, a few of you are saying, it's hard to get started. Well, sometimes if someone does this in a workplace, it requires folks sometimes to really take a step back and do that. Kristen says, managing my expectations. That is outstanding. That's actually something else we're going to talk about here in just a moment. Remembering or taking note of their asks. Yes. Buy my staff lunch once a month. That's excellent. Stretches help. Kudos board. Yes, that's awesome. Kudos board. When you figure out how a communication style, it can promote employee engagement and respect. Absolutely. What the preferred communication style is. Being an active listener. I treat my department with food, celebrate successes. All of these are really great ideas. So one of the thing about going back to managing expectations, and this can also be if you ever worked in a difficult work environment, and I define this broadly, basically in an environment that is not really conducive to your well-being, your success, your professional success. Maybe your values and goals are not on the same page as the employer you work for. So this goes into really understanding what you can and cannot control, right? So this managing expectations. And this may sound so general, but it can be so powerful. I've done this myself in my past work history where I've sat down and made a list of what can I control and what is out of my hands. Then when you start to determine that, you could put more focus on what you have control over. You don't always have control over if there's a massive personality difference between you and leadership, right? Or if you're not being recognized or encouraged to grow in the organization for some reason. The reality is for a lot of people to grow in position organization, they have to be perceived as someone who will be successful. And you can be trying so hard and you can have all the skills and background, but unfortunately, if you're not recognized by leadership, that can prevent you from moving. So knowing what you have control over and what you do not. I encourage you, if you're working with a challenging situation or a work environment, to make that list, physically sit down and make that list so that you can be aware of what you really, where you should put your energy. And thank you, Shantae, for that shout out about the muting mics. And I think we have taken care of that. So excellent. So ways to foster gratitude in the workplace. As we know, gratitude in a workplace promotes a kinder, happier, more purposeful, productive culture and more dedicated, productive, loyal employees. Culture is also the main factor related to employee satisfaction and engagement. How many times have you heard that people don't leave a job because of the job? They leave the job because of the culture or leadership, right? These can be the bigger issues to really look at. So a handwritten thank you card or note to give to someone. This can be a little more challenging if you work remotely, but it's not impossible. If you're able to get the address of your coworker or whoever to send a card to. But these are not done as much, so this can really go a long way for people. And if you think of practicing gratitude and mindfulness in terms of physical fitness, like I just talked about earlier, starting slowly, but over time, you're going to be able to start to see the smaller benefits, which will give you momentum and be able to, again, you'll be able to see the ripple effect and the overall health of the organization change in a lot of cases. Gratitude breaks in meetings. So for this, when you're doing your traditional, team huddles, team meetings, maybe you start a practice where you say, you know what, I just want to check in with everyone and see what are you grateful for right now? As you saw at the beginning of this workshop, that brief little exercise that we did on reflecting on what you're grateful for showed you how empowering that can be. This can definitely start an excellent, kind of change in the tone of some of these meetings if you start to implement something like this. I saw an article, Daring to Live Fully, this idea about a thankful tree, which I thought was really interesting. So you can set up, like a traditional holiday tree in a common area of your workplace and provide colorful paper cutout tree ornaments in a bowl next to it, along with writing utensils. Encourage your team to write their gratitude on a paper cutout and hang it on the tree. Together, the ornaments will be a daily visual reminder of gratitude for the whole season. And honestly, you can do this any time of the year. I've seen, of course, trees utilized for different holidays, but this could also be a good activity for annual retreats, employee orientation, other events that provide time for games. So the thankful tree, there's the appreciation hot seat where you have members of the team sit one at a time in a hot seat. Everyone tells this person in the hot seat why they appreciate them and expresses gratitude for their work and any other help or kindness recently given. Now, again, you probably want to be mindful of the communication needs and preferred ways of being recognized of your team, because that could be a little overwhelming to some folks. But I think it's also a really good idea to share in terms of the appreciation hot seat. Because again, we get so busy, how often do we really take the time to stop and recognize each and every team member? Small tokens of appreciation. This could be anything. This could be, I know our team works remotely, so we have what's called Motivosity bucks, where you can submit, it's like $1 to $5 to each individual team member for something they did for kudos, what have you, or you could just send them, something, a funny meme or something that they enjoy, just to brighten the tone. It can be very powerful if that is started but then maintained, these different kinds of ways of fostering gratitude. And then in addition to these particular ideas, this is one of my personal favorites, the kudos folder. I do keep one of these whenever I receive positive feedback from, leadership, my colleagues, students. Then I go back and, occasionally I'll review these if I'm having kind of a tough day. Another thing is that if any of you have an active LinkedIn profile and you've had folks give you recommendations, you can go back and review some of those and see what people have said about you in the past. It's another way to kind of rejuvenate from time to time. The gratitude journal, we talked about that before, and I know some of you had tried it and maybe it wasn't your favorite thing, but maybe you keep it workplace related and say, okay, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for today? I'm grateful that I have my colleague Shantae here to, help to monitor the chat. I'm grateful that I have the flexibility to, travel with my job to help out family members. I am grateful that I'm able to provide this workshop to all of you because it's one of my favorite topics. And again, it's all about the more you do it, it's like physical fitness. The more you do this, the more you will see the results. So it is a buildup over time typically. You also might use that gratitude journal as a way to be thankful for challenges and what you learned from them. This can be very tough to do. It can take some processing. So maybe you made a mistake at work and you thought, oh my gosh, that was really embarrassing, or I wish this wouldn't have happened. What can you take away from that? And a way to process that is to write it in a journal and think about, okay, this isn't what I really wanted to happen, but how can I look at this another way? What knowledge can I take with me from this? And one of the biggest interview questions that you may be asked is, tell me about a time when you experienced failure. Employers want you to be as honest and transparent as possible, and they're not expecting every candidate to be perfect. They're wanting to see that you can bounce back from a difficult incident, right? They're going to want to see what you learned from that. A related question on that has to do with what did you see use your greatest strength and challenge or weakness, and why? Again, they want you to be as honest as possible. And when they say the weakness, they want to see what you've learned about yourself from it or how you're working on it. This all has to do with really fostering also a growth mindset. So maybe you take a spin on that gratitude journal in making it work related and processing some of these events that didn't go as planned, but what can you use from that to move forward? Then maybe putting gratitude time into your calendar at the same time every day. And you can make this very versatile in terms of what you're going to do at that time. Maybe you put 30 minutes in there, and maybe you're going to recognize one colleague a week, and maybe you're going to take what's called a joy break. We used to do this at Arizona State in one of my offices, is we would schedule in joy breaks. And this would be taking 30 minutes to do whatever we enjoy. This would be outside of our lunch hour. Whether it was to take a walk outside and just sit in the sun when it's not over 110 degrees, or maybe it was to, just take a walk down the hall. Maybe it was to call a friend, whatever. But this really made us pause and take that time for ourselves. And it was a really great activity. I'm glad that we actually started implementing that. Maybe you start a meditation event at your workplace. Maybe you do, like we said, 30 minutes. There are so many different activities you can do online. I'm a big fan of visualizations. So, reading about like being on a beach or being, out in a field somewhere, whatever it might be. And then, of course, there's random acts of kindness. and get very creative with that, whatever that might mean for you, even beyond paying for someone's coffee or meal or what have you. Um, there's many ways that you can get involved with that too. And then the gratitude challenge, this could be, you could do a version of the 30-day challenge that we're going to talk about, and think of a strategic way that you're going to be able to implement gratitude into your workplace. Again, this will have to be something that would work well for your team and for yourself, but this could be a great way to jumpstart that gratitude activity. So going back to that challenging work environment piece, as I said earlier, it can be really good to, as one of our participants said, to manage your expectations, but to also be clear on what you can and cannot control. And knowing, here's, of course, we know the challenging thing about employment is a lot of times that is your livelihood. This is your income coming in. But it also may get to a point where you'll have to critically think about, is this environment taking so much away from my health, my engagement, my goals, that I need to come up with a plan to look elsewhere. And I have talked to some students, of course, where this has been their situation. Some that have worked for a certain company for 15 plus years, and they never expected the need to leave, but it became such a situation that they really had to ask themselves those questions. So taking a step back and asking yourself, or even if you're in the job search now or coming up, doing the research on a company's mission and vision can be a little bit of a glimpse into, is this going to be a good fit for me? Using a site like Glassdoor, many of you may be familiar with them, where you're getting input from other people that have worked there, have been through the interview process, and also conducting informational interviews. This can be another great way to get some insight into other companies, what it might be like working there. But if you're in a currently challenging work environment, it could be helpful to take the situation day by day and knowing where to focus your energy. You can't always focus, you can't always control what the attitudes are of other people. You can try to implement more gratitude and mindfulness into the workplace. You can control your reactions to what happens. I know that can be very difficult, especially if there's not a good match with you and maybe the leadership team. But keeping in mind, always going back to what you can and can't control is very important. Okay. So as we're getting to more of the end of the content here, I like to do this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. The reason that I am implementing this particular exercise is that a lot of times we know that when we are working in the context of our values, we talk about gratitude being powerful, but also working in the context of your values helps you to be more productive, engaged, and satisfied in your career. So this combines a little bit of value and also gratitude. So I'd like you to take a moment and, as you see here, name 5, for example, starting with a 5. Name 5 values related to the workplace or your career. So maybe for you, here's some examples. Work-life balance could be really important. Another one could be making a difference. Another one could be helping people. If it is helping people, because that's a big one people say a lot, is I would encourage you to say in what context. Is it helping people to manage their finances? Is it helping people to understand how to progress in their field? Maybe you're a supervisor. Is it having variety in your work? So think about 5 values related to your workplace or your career. Then name 4 elements for which you are grateful related to your current job, career, or academic pursuit. Maybe you are grateful, maybe you're a current WGU student and you're grateful to be able to participate in competency-based online education. right? Because we don't count by seat time. We count by how quickly you can master the material, and you have that flexibility. Maybe you're grateful for a hybrid position. Maybe you're grateful for a leader or supervisor that really helps you to develop as a professional. Maybe you have a strong mentor that you're proud of, or maybe you really love your team. So 4 elements which you are grateful related to your current job, career, academic pursuit. 3 ways to practice self-care. So this could be, daily meditation for 5 minutes. This could be, massages. This could be joy breaks. Whatever comes to mind for you for best self-care. 2 strategies which you are willing to try from what we talked about in this workshop, whether it's starting the gratitude tree, the gratitude journal, starting a yoga group, whatever might come up for you, the kudos folder, the jar, etc. And then name 1 difficult career-related situation which you are able to view with gratitude and discuss the element of gratitude. That last one might take you a while to reflect upon, which is understandable. Maybe you go back to the first thing we talked about in the element that stresses you out. And then being able to take a step back and say, okay, what can I learn from this, or what can I be grateful about in this situation? So this kind of packages up a lot of what we talked about in being able to foster gratitude and mindfulness. Then when we talk about that 30-day challenge, we're going to keep this a little bit smaller. So 30 days from now is going to be approximately, it looks like September 28th. So I encourage all of you to make a note of this somewhere, whether you type it, write it down, what have you, and think about one strategy that you would like to try that we talked about and incorporate in the next 30 days. Think about an accountability partner that you might be able to check in with. This could be a friend, family member. You could even contact us in career and professional development, see how it went. If you want to have somebody to follow up with, just to see again if you were able to hold yourself accountable for whatever that strategy is that you would really like to work on. And as we are coming to the end of this session, just to tell you a little bit more about what we offer in career and professional development, we do individual appointments on everything from, what can you do with your major, to maybe you have some ideas of what you want to do with your major, but you're not sure how to get the experience that you need to get to that point where you want to go, to putting together a networking strategy. We do resume, cover letter reviews, and LinkedIn profile reviews all by email. And the process is on our website for each of those. Once we receive your documents for the resume review, there is a tutorial we ask you to watch first to make sure you have the basics down. There's a self-review form we ask you to complete. And then if you submit the self-review and the document to us by email, we provide a review within 4 to 5 business days. The nice thing is it's quite detailed. It gives you a lot of customized feedback based on what you put in that self-review form. We also do a lot of mock or practice interviews. If you haven't done one of those, I really encourage you to think about setting one up with us, because it allows you to be, basically on the spot without a lot of consequence. If, maybe you didn't answer the right way, or maybe you didn't answer it the way you would like to, you're able to get some really valuable feedback while also being a little bit in that hot seat to give you some practice. We help with salary negotiation as well. So these are a lot of the common topics that we cover. And then through Handshake, that is the platform that reflects the opportunities we have with employers. So there are a lot of, internships, full-time opportunities, employer information sessions that you can RSVP for. You hear about the workshops we offer through there. So it's a great resource to keep on your radar no matter what. And then in addition to our appointments, we do offer same day, well, I should say callback service, where if you leave a voicemail for us during business hours, we will return your call within 24 business hours. So let's say you have an interview coming up, and this happens, you get like a day's notice and you really want to connect with us, that would be a great avenue for you to maybe utilize our callback service. So this is our email address. You see we have a Facebook group that you're welcome to follow, and we also have an excellent LinkedIn group, WGU alumni and students, that you can join and network there as well. So hopefully this content gave you some ideas to think about and some ways to implement some of the mindfulness and gratitude techniques. And thank you so much, Shantae. It looks like she's posted a lot of the activities here. I will bounce back for a minute because I saw a request for the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oops, if it's going to let me go back here, sorry. Current slide. All right. Okay, so there's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And yes, if you need to go, I definitely understand. Thank you for joining us today. If you have any last minute questions, we'll be here for just a couple more minutes. And again, I encourage you to take part in that 30-day challenge. It's a great way to start to implement this, because I do understand how it's one of those things where, you know, it feels like it's a lot to get started. But once you take those initial steps, it's, you know, a lot easier to get that momentum going. All right. Any other questions? Like I said, anyone who has RSVP'd for this session will get a copy of the recording within 2 business days, so you will have some more time to review some of this material too. Thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate you taking time out of your Monday to join us, and hope you got some good tips. Thank you, Vicki. I appreciate you attending. All right, and Pranita, thank you. Appreciate you joining us. And like I said, let us know if we can be helpful to you in the future. Yes, so a separate question just came in about gaps in work history, and we can definitely help you. We would probably recommend that you schedule an appointment with us, that we can talk about your specific situation, because there are, you know, many different considerations when we talk about gaps. And ever since COVID, there has been more flexibility with employers in general with gaps. Other things that can be helpful are if you attended school during those gaps. If you were, you know, sometimes if you're a stay-at-home parent, there's certain things that we can have you discuss on your resume. It kind of depends. It depends on your field and such. But definitely, we encourage you to make an appointment, and we can talk you through that a little bit more. Yeah, thank you, Jesse and Jenna, for attending. Appreciate it. All right, so it looks like we are about at the top of the hour. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And like I said, we will get this sent out to you, this recording, within the next couple days. Thank you for joining us.